Hello everyone, this is Peter Bom again for Australian Motorcycle News, reporting about what happened today in Silverstone at the MotoGP race on the Saturday. I had fun watching, qualifying was interesting, sprint was very interesting. We had some interesting fights. Honestly, usually quite often the sprints, I mean the whole idea about the sprint is making it short and then put more pressure and more tension in it. But in reality, sprints are often boring. You know, there is the start, couple of corners, and the positions you have there, they just stay there. Not today in Silverstone. So yeah, qualifying was already a little bit surprising. Race was a lot of action. Let's start with Fabio Quartararo on pole position with the Yamaha. I told you yesterday that the Yamaha has improved so much, but I didn't know it was improving so much that it did pole position and 0.3 faster than the guy in second place. That's a huge step, and that's not just a Yamaha, that's Fabio Quartararo riding out of his skin. So very good performance from Fabio, but the Yamaha definitely has improved because also Jack Miller was in the top 10 in qualifying, so the Yamaha is better. But then being on pole is one thing, having a good result in the race against the Ducatis is another thing. And that's at the moment where the Yamaha fails. The Yamaha has changed a lot from the last couple of years. Now it's really good in the one lap. It's really good on the first lap in the race with fresh tires, but it drops a lot later on. So, and that's what happened. Fabio is riding the Yamaha in a way as a normal motorbike with white lines and so on and so on. He can do that only when he's alone, but when he is alone, he can do it really fast. But in a sprint, you're not alone. So he was fighting against a couple of Ducatis, and they have so much extra horsepower to drag race more or less out of the slower corners. They can brake really late, square the corners off. They don't have the corner speed compared to the Yamaha, nothing. But the reality is better to have a fast bike with a shit corner speed than a beautiful handling bike with a low top speed. So Fabio was a sitting duck in the first couple of races, starting leading the race, but then in the end he dropped down a lot for two reasons. First, he dropped because I told you it's a Yamaha. It's not yet they're ready to fight in the sprint race. More in the sprint race maybe than tomorrow, because in the sprint everybody still is using the soft rear tire. I don't think people will use the soft rear tire tomorrow, which will change the whole game again. But today with the soft rear tires, Fabio was immediately passed by every man. And then the second problem of the Yamaha is when the rear tire drops its performance, they suffer a lot more than other people whose rear tire drops. So both Fabio and Jack Miller were really up front there. Jack being in the top 6 for probably half the race, you know, doing everything correct. Fabio in the top, first leading and then top 2, 3, 4. But when the tires dropped, Jack dropped a lot more than Fabio, but both the result was the same. So that's the story of Fabio Quartararo. Super good qualifying, leading the sprint initially, getting eaten alive by the Ducatis that have a lot more top speed and keep the tires longer alive. But we have to speak about Marc Marquez as well, the guy that we all, or at least I think, is going to be world champion. I still think he's going to be world champion. But he's in a sort of a difficult position. On this track, this is probably his poorest track from the whole calendar. He won it only one time, and I think that must be 2013 or 14, so like 1,000 years ago he won only one time. So this is his boogie track. And it shows he didn't put the thing on pole, and he didn't win the sprint race. Now he won all the sprint races so far. Mark not winning the sprint race. Okay, then he's realizing I really cannot win this without too much risk, and I don't want to take too much risk in the sprint race because it's only 9 points, you know, that he got today. So it's only half the points. And he said, I'm not going to take the risk for it for today. He was beaten fair and square by his brother. He took the lead in the beginning of the race, made a mistake, and then decided, okay, count my blessings for today. I cannot have any more moments because then I end up in my ass and having 0 points, and maybe I hurt myself for tomorrow's race. He just finished second behind his brother, Alex, which we also have to speak about. I think I told you guys earlier this year, Alex is good. Last year's Ducati is probably the best bike to have on the grid. Alex is very experienced. He learns a lot from his brother who helps him a lot, but he will never going to be world champion. I still don't think he's going to be world champion, but Jesus, hey, he has improved so much. It's very interesting to see what happened to a guy who in my eyes always did it more with brain and determination than with raw talent. He's not scared to throw the thing away when it doesn't work. He had a lot of crashes. I know he was world champion Moto3 and Moto2, but never like a super talent that comes in a class and beats everybody. He's in MotoGP now already for quite some years. He's known for his crashes. He's usually top crasher of the year. So I didn't really rate him, but since he started this year on such a good Ducati, his brother helps him a lot. He gets faster, but something happened in his mind. Now he gets faster. He gets so confident and so sure. Oh, it's almost scary to watch. And Mark must be more or less getting scared by his brother because he didn't put the foot wrong and just beats him. There is another reason behind it, why it's Mark's boogie track and why it's Alex's beautiful track. Mark is super fast in left-hand corners, which is a problem because not many racetracks go left-handed. I know, you guys, Phillip Island is left-handed, but it's one of the few tracks. On corners, left-hand corners, Mark is super. So on tracks that go counterclockwise, he's usually super, like Sachsenring, whatever, you know, all these places. But Silverstone is clockwise and it has a lot of very fast right-handed corners. So not a short, slow one, but very fast one. And his brother is actually excellent in fast right-hand corners and he is quite bad at it, relatively speaking. So Alex winning, Marc Marquez second, Fabio Quartararo starting in the leading but then dropping a lot. The next guy and manufacturer we need to talk about is Marco Bezzecchi. I don't rate him a lot, personally. Aprilia is in the shit because the captain left to Honda, which is Alex Espargaro. The new captain jumped out of the boat pretty quickly in the beginning of the year by hurting himself again on the supermoto, coming back to race in Qatar, hurting himself again. Now there's all sorts of rumors of him wanting to leave Aprilia. We don't go into that now. But Aprilia missing a leader and don't really know who to follow. Bezzecchi was good in first testing, but then I never really rated Bezzecchi as a special rider. But I do rate Aprilias. I think I told in this place many more times how good I think the Aprilia deep inside is. And not only me, but Aprilia and Silverstone is a really good marriage. Aprilia was always super good in Silverstone in the past. Alex was on pole there, probably Alex won there. Now Alex normally never won a MotoGP. And it shows again here. Bezzecchi showed that Aprilia is always good here because his starting position was not super. He's not very good in qualifying. And he fucked up the start completely. He was, maybe he had 3 guys behind him after turn 1. And he finished 4th. Constantly setting super fast race lap time. So the Aprilia is super good here. And even with a guy like Bezzecchi that is a good rider, but not a top rider, they are finishing 4th. That means if Jorge Martin was here, think about it, he would have won it today on the Aprilia. But Jorge is not here and that's mostly down to himself. So yeah, that's the Aprilia. Pecco Bagnaia, who is in a sort of a hole, in a crisis, because you lose confidence being the teammate with Marc Marquez who beats you all the time. He did beat Marc Marquez in qualifying. Marc wasn't even on the first row. But then Pecco started really good, fighting quite aggressively, but for some reason Pecco's front tire in the last 2 laps was completely gone. And that, I mean, we could see it in the slow motion. When they zoom in on the tire, it was completely gone. The weird thing is, it was only his front tire that dropped so much, but it gives entertaining racing. A guy that was first fighting in the front suddenly dropped and got passed by Johan Zarco in the last lap. So before that by Marco Bezzecchi. And Zarco, we have to speak about it, finishing 5th. Now the Honda also improved a lot the last couple of races, but they are in another situation than Yamaha. Yamaha, like I said, is now very good in qualifying and the 1 lap, don't have the race pace and cannot use the tire for a long time. Honda is the opposite. Not very good in qualifying, not very good in the first couple of laps with a soft tire, but when the tire drops they can do the same. And Zarco is good on a used tire. So finishing 5 on the Honda today was really showing again that Honda is making progress. Yamaha is making progress, but they are in a very different situation. But interesting, they are sort of closing the gap to the Ducatis. One manufacturer that's not closing the gap to anybody, at least not this weekend, is KTM. They are in a very difficult place, obviously mostly caused by all the financial problems they have. There has been a lack of updates, of new parts, of improvements. They are just testing settings and throwing parts around that they already have, and they got probably really lost over the last couple of races when suddenly Maverick Vinales turned out to be the fastest guy with a whole different setting, a whole different weight balance over the bike. Since the last race, all the other KTMs were more or less forced to use that setting, and that worked in Le Mans, but it doesn't work here. Not Vinales, not Bastianini, not Binder, nobody is anywhere except Acosta. Finished quite a good position in the race. He started only on 14 but finished 8th, so but he, for me, is a super talent. So KTM is lost. They don't have a captain and they don't have enough updates. I'm very sorry to say that because I love them so much, but they're not really there. Aussie riders in Moto2, Moto3. We had a good day. Senna Agius is back. The same Senna Agius that was so good in Phillip Island got on a holiday for a couple of races, but here in Silverstone, which actually is a lot like Phillip Island, like really fast corners, long track, but very fast corners. Since the first lap on Friday morning, he's fast, he's there. So Senna Agius in P5 in qualifying in the Moto2, everything can happen tomorrow. Moto3, Joel Kelso 5th, Jacob Roulstone 13, Moto3, always everything can and will happen. So don't miss tomorrow's race in Moto2 and Moto3 even as well. And expect a MotoGP race that's going to be completely different than it was today in the sprint race, because we will have the medium rear tire. It's going to be a long race. It's also a fuel consumption race, means if your engine is using too much fuel, you pay the penalty in the last 4 or 5 laps by having less power, because then the computer will turn itself down a little bit, turn the mapping down, and you will have less power. It can be an important thing in a race situation. We will never hear it from the riders. They usually don't say that, but you just look at the television and somebody get past too easy on the straight line in the last couple of steps, then probably that manufacturer didn't make a very efficient engine. That was it for today. I hope to speak to you again tomorrow. Good night.